Thanks for joining us today. This is our last presentation, Practical Ag Tech on Your Operation, which I'm really excited about. I've been hearing more and more about virtual fencing and other things, and really excited to learn more about it. So
Awesome.
with that, I'm going to pass it over to Ryan O'Neill to teach us.
Thank you all for taking the time to join me here this afternoon. A little bit of background on myself. I am the Total Creek Watershed Coordinator for the Watershed Restoration and Protection Strategy. I also run a 200-head cow-calf operation with my wife, and then also support my folks who run a 2,000-head operation out of Dodge City. So today is really going to be kind of more of a conversation about necessity that came out of time, restriction of time. I'm to the point now where I'm consulting and working with producers on a daily basis. And my wife is actually trying to finish up her PhD here in Lawrence. Our ranch is north of Manhattan, and we still have to make the drive out to Dodge City. So we're continually going at all times. And really, this came out of necessity from the standpoint of saving time. As we get through it, you'll start to notice some themes. And those themes are safety on an operation, safety for your family, safety for your loved ones. That's probably been the big thing for us. I've got a few slides in here that I didn't actually get put in. I was actually with my dad last night at a funeral, and we got some things put together that kind of correlated to a lot of what we're doing. And he's actually got some really neat videos of some of the technology in action that we've implemented on their operation. And so afterwards, if you guys want to come up and take a look at that, I'm more than happy to share that video with you.
Maybe we could switch.
Yeah, we could absolutely do that. So again, that's a little bit of background on myself, my operation, kind of what I do. Like I said, a lot of this came out of necessity. And one thing I want you to take away from this is don't be overwhelmed with what you're going to see here. Our operation is almost fully integrated now, to where all of my systems are connected, everything from our satellites to our imagery to our cell phones to our cameras. Everything is fully integrated into our operation. And so it's taken a process, it's taken time. But as you go through this, you'll start to see how our systems are connected as we go through day to day. First off, anyone know what this is? Chris, you know what this is? Maybe by chance? That's Starlink. Okay, Starlink. Awesome. I'm 45 miles from the closest town where we ranch. My folks' operation is a little over an hour from the closest town. So connectivity has really been an issue for our operations. And I'm not here to promote Starlink or anything like that, but just letting you know, this has been a lifesaver for our operation. Where we've really come into play with this is I can actually take this out to a corral where I'm working cattle, and I can actually set it up and have it going and have my laptop on my vet desk, right? And I can actually be collecting information as I'm coming through. So our scales are set up to actually collect ID tag information, and that's live feeding it straight to my laptop. So I'm not having to do anything through Excel. So you've all been there. Hands are shitty, muddy, and we're trying to work in Excel. It's a nightmare, especially when you're preg checking. That is an issue, right? And so what's been really nice about this is it automates everything for me. So as that cow comes into that chute, I'm collecting that data, and boom, it's going straight to my management app. From there, it's also collecting everything from temperature, and I will get into the sensor part of things. But what's really nice is the ability to actually take this anywhere I want. What's really fun. So my wife is teaching here in Lawrence. Last year I had to be speaking in Minnesota, and so I was in Minnesota for a week during cabins. And she, of course, had to teach classes. So you'll get to see it here in a little bit. Basically set these up in our loafing sheds to where everywhere we were calving, my wife could go and teach her classes. And so she was literally 5 miles from the house, but she was able to be inside a loafing shed. She could teach her classes, she could do her work, and still keep an eye on the operation. And that's one big thing I really want to promote. Let you guys know, it really is just my wife and I. This past year, my nephews did come to K-State, and so for a little bit of room and board and some beer money, they do get to help out. So, but this has been super helpful for us. My folks, even this past year, we got them set up and going just because we have automated a lot of things in their operation as well. So like I said, it's one of those deals, you don't think Wi-Fi is that important until you're not running without it, right? And that's been just such a life-saving piece of tech. And what I mean, you can literally take this anywhere you want. You can take it out, stick it on a pole out in the middle of nowhere, and you're gonna pick up reception. So, and what's really, really cool too, a lot of this technology, I think when it first came out, it was kind of like that new pickup mentality. It's like, oh, that's cool, right? But it costs so much. It's like we need used truck prices. And even now, used truck prices are ridiculous. But the cool thing is we're now to an affordability stage where a lot of this technology is actually fairly manageable and fairly affordable. And what you'll come to find out too is having some of this technology actually allows you to see a return on investment. We look at cattle prices here this past year. What if you could have saved one or two calves, right? That probably would have paid for multiple systems, right? So that's one thing. Just think about that. As far as connectivity, yeah, as you're out running around in the truck, it's a great place to actually have a meeting. I hold meetings all the time. I have my dish set up. Like if I'm out checking cows, I'll have it set up. Great thing too, I can be in a loafing shed and be able to be on a sale and not miss a sale. That's probably a big thing. Land comes up for sale, I've got an opportunity to be there, right? Cows come up for sale, I've got an opportunity to get on those cows. So that's what's really, really cool about it. It just gives me a lot more flexibility. And as you see, it allows me to be kind of in 6, 7 different places at a time, right? So let's talk a little bit about virtual fencing, and I'm going to tie this into kind of more of a personal story. And like I said, you'll see more of the videos and stuff here afterwards. But virtual fencing, I think this has probably been the most popular topic probably in ranching for quite some time now. Probably a lot of the reason why you guys are here. The big thing for us is this all came out of safety for me. It got to the point to where my wife could not go out. And I'll just frame it for you. She's 5'1", about 110 pounds. It was getting to the point to where I felt uncomfortable being out, putting up fencing, being around cows. She had a few accidents, and it got to the point where it's just like it's irresponsible for us to be running our operation this way. And so it really did come out of safety. What's really, really cool about this is, and I was doing it on the drive. I was coming from Dexter, Missouri here, and I was changing my paddocks as we were driving. What's really, really neat about this is I don't have to go out and put up polywire fencing. I don't have to go and pound post. I don't have to go and move my polywire fencing as I'm doing my rotational grazing. I can do that from the kitchen table. I can do that from the truck. I can do that from Lawrence. I can do that anywhere I want to. What's really, really cool about this, and probably some of you have experienced this a few times, if you're cover cropping like we do pretty intensively, you probably got major growth, especially in your field corners. You run that polywire fence, all of a sudden we get a snowstorm. That snowstorm all of a sudden drifts up to 2 feet, covers your polywire fence. You got cows getting out, right? This eliminates that. This eliminates that completely. I know a lot of people have trust issues with it, right? Connectivity, those type of things, right? It has backups, right? So it allows you time. So if your system is down, you get that alert, you get that notification that, hey, your system is down, right? So you get a nice little 30-minute window here. What's really, really cool about this, and you'll see it here in a little bit, but it's actually how I've got to the point of not just raising cattle, but moving cattle safely in our operation. It's really neat from the standpoint, as you've got cattle that are on these systems, they get really well trained to it. They get really well adapted to it. And that adaptation actually passes along with those generations. You start to notice that your first time heifers, all of a sudden they go out, they hit that line, get a zap, maybe a little bit. They get used to the tone after a little bit, so they'll get a tone. They get used to that tone. The calf will actually start to respond to that tone too, and they will start to recognize those boundaries. So I'm about 4 generations in now is what I'm at, and my generations are understanding tone. And so it's not even actually sending a shock signal anymore. So they're actually starting to understand the tone. What's really, really cool about this from an animal health perspective, right? We're not out here stressing cows. We're not fighting anything. We're not trying to corral anything. We're slowly, progressively moving our cattle to a certain point in a field. if I want to take them to a corral where I need to go work at the end of the week, I start digitally moving my GPS lines until I get them to that corner. So by Saturday morning, when it's time to work, they're already in the corral. I don't even have to do anything. So that's been a huge, huge thing for us. We'll talk a little bit more on the safety side of things when we get to our loafing sheds. But this has been huge, especially for my wife when I'm gone and she needs to move cows, especially as we're rotating in a paddock. She can automatically just do it from the kitchen table. So that's been a huge, huge lifesaver. I feel so much better knowing that she's not out there potentially getting hurt, having those issues. And going back to that satellite conversation as far as Starlink is concerned, we've all been out in a field and not had connectivity. We can't call anyone. We can't do that stuff. And that'll tie a little bit into kind of some of our personal reasons. Yeah, that did show up. That's kind of not the full slide. So this is my dad here to the right. 67 years old in this picture, still roping, still horseback, does everything that way. He's hard as nails and prefers to do everything that way. Being hard as nails, he's stubborn, extremely stubborn. I got a phone call here 2 years ago. Mom had called and said, "Hey, your dad's in the hospital." My dad's never ever gone to the hospital for anything in his life. He sews himself up. He's that type of guy. So I knew it was bad. And I was like, what's the deal? She goes, he woke up and he was going to go move 200 head by himself. And he did, because he's always done that, right? He's gone on horseback. He's done that. That day, had a little bit of snow, a little bit of rain. And as he's moving him to corral, his horse slipped. And when she slipped, she jumped forward and held him into a tree. It flipped him off the tree. And I don't know if it's on here. It might be, but it may not. No. But anyways, flipped him off the back of the tree, off the back of the horse, broke his collarbone, completely shattered it, broke several vertebrae in his neck, and he had laid unconscious for about 4 hours. Happened to be a neighbor drive by and see cattle out, and went and found my dad. He had been trampled on, stepped on, everything like that. So after this event here, I kind of came to the conclusion of you can be hard as nails. It's not worth losing a life. It's stupid. If you're going to be somewhere, have connectivity to where we know where you're going to be. Be able to actually operate. You know, if you need to operate by yourself, operate safely, right? And that was a huge, huge thing for me. And I'll show you some videos and stuff here afterwards. We'll kind of talk about it, but we'll just go back. But one of the big things I did is I went out west and set up a virtual fencing system for my dad. And there's a really neat video here, and I'll show it to you guys here at the end, but it's 2 sections. It's about 1,200 acres of what it is. And they're moving 300 head of cattle through this. And it's just him and my niece. And what's cool about it is in the video, you can actually see an actual barbed wire fence to the left-hand side, but then all you see is open pasture to the right-hand side, right? But what's unique about it is every single one of them cows is walking in a perfectly straight line, almost in 4 rows, right? Almost like they were trained to do it. They were, right? Which slowly encroached that digital fence into that operation. And we knew that when it was time to move them, that they had about 200 yards to work in. 2 people could move 300 head of cattle safely. Safely, nothing's rushing, nothing's bumping into each other. They're working from the back, nothing's escaping out the sides. Everything's used to it, right? And so that's what's really, really interesting. And I'll show you the videos at the end. But like I said, that's kind of a neat little thing that you can actually physically see it, right? So we'll bump up here. Going into livestock monitoring here a little bit, cameras have become a huge thing for our operation. In all of our loafing sheds, all of our calving barns, I've got these cameras set up. We've all been there where we're worried. We're thinking, gosh, we've got a calf that's getting ready to come. We walk out to the barn. It's negative 20 degrees outside. She's laying down. She's comfortable, and she's chewing her cud. Does that piss you off? Like, it's one of those deals. Great, you're checking on them. That's fantastic. The reality is you're losing sleep, you're stressing yourself out. You can't operate if you're right. And so that's what's really, really nice about it is I can sit there and roll over in bed at 3 o'clock in the morning and check on my cameras, make sure everything's fine, everything's secure, it's taken care of. What's really, really cool is a lot of the monitoring systems that have come along with it. Does anyone use any of the tail monitors for calving, maybe at all? What's really, really cool is you can actually, on the dock, you can actually put a little monitor there. And when that cow starts to twitch her tail back and forth, letting you know that she's getting close to labor, you start getting notifications. So when I start getting those notifications, I'll check my camera. I go, okay, we're about ready. And then I can make the decision to go out to the barn and do that, right? Remember that polar vortex that hit here? Gosh, was that 2016, 2017? And guys were literally losing calves that were freezing to the ground almost instantly. I was in Minneapolis when that hit, and we weren't supposed to calve for another 3 weeks, but that it had forced it. The weather had turned, and calves started dropping. And my wife called me, and she goes, "I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do." And I've never felt so crappy as a husband, for one, that she was stuck in a position to try and handle that on her own. But also at the same time, she was doing everything she possibly could, but couldn't keep up with it, right? And so that, with the issues, in my head and just safety in general, we made a hard transition to where we were not going to fail again. And I'm not saying we haven't failed, but I'll be honest with you, since we've implemented this, we haven't lost a single calf. And that's impressive for us, especially where we're out in the middle of nowhere. Closest vet's an hour away. That's a lot to go through, right? So I've been really, really impressed with some of that technology. And just like I mentioned earlier, think about it. If you had some of these sensors in place and you could save 1 or 2 calves, especially with cow prices the way they were here this year, you paid for your system. You paid for it all. And so that's the thing is, like, you'll see it and you think this price tag is just ungodly. The reality is it pays for itself. It really, really does. But like I said, don't get overwhelmed with thinking you have to implement this whole system, right? I think about it taking it incrementally. Remote camera systems, big for us. Our operation out west, like I said, we're an hour away from the closest town. We do have some stuff in northern New Mexico as well. Really rough terrain, hard to keep an eye on. And so we've just started setting up cameras out in all of our pastures and our paddocks. What's really, really cool about this is most of these systems, one will run solar, but then you have a cellular network. So it's just a little SIM card. You throw it in there and you get a live feed just like you would with your Ring camera, your door, right? And so that's been extremely, extremely helpful here. Also, what's really nice is you start tying pieces back together. So when we look at our geofencing side of things and we look at our ear tags, we know that those ear tags actually have GPS tracking. We've got a cow that's possibly going off on her own, doing something different. We can actually check in on that cow, right? Do we check with that ID tag? Our temperature is elevated. Is she got her head down? Is she not eating? Is she not going to that leg tub? That allows us to actually be proactive instead of reactive, right? So we can actually go out and doctor and pull in if we need to, and we're not losing a cow. And that's been the big thing. So think again, we've saved it, paid for the system, right? Loafing sheds. This seems not like technology, but let me tell you, it is the best piece of technology we have actually brought into our operation, and probably my favorite. So this is kind of how it is now, but I've actually revamped these loafing sheds here. These actually have sliding doors on them now, and there's a gravel pad underneath it. And then what I've done now is I've actually taken that 6-inch tile line and I've put them into bundles of about a dozen, and I'll run them about 8 feet into the ground and about 100 feet long, right? And what it's doing is it's actually thermal heat. So I can keep my little loafing sheds at about 50 degrees in the winter. And so it's all bundled up and everything like that. I've also taken and cut out this little kind of panel here and just put in some plexiglass. So if my wife never ever needs to be out there and it's super cold, she's got a propane heater and she can go in and sit in there and there's a little bunk in there and she can watch those, make sure no issues. She's also got the Wi-Fi capabilities because she's got Starlink, so she can be on the computer doing her work if she needs to. So we're killing multiple birds with one stone here, right? Also, as you look into this, you can't really see it, but this is kind of just a tree line on the backside, but this is all cover crop. So that's what I've done. These are all on skids. So at all the corners of our fields that we winter and we run cover crop, this is where we'll actually put loafing sheds. They're super easy to move. You can get a skid steer, drag them around, really easy to drop, right? What's cool is we've actually tied in the geofencing portion of this. So when it's time to start calving and I've got everything out in cover crops, we'll start incrementally bringing that fence line closer and closer and closer. So as it's getting closer, and it's kind of bad, but there's actually a lane that kind of comes this way. But as that comes closer, I built a virtual alleyway, right? So I built this virtual alleyway. What's really, really cool about it is my wife can then actually go out and just put a little pressure on, and those calves will start walking down that virtual alleyway. They'll hit their tones every once in a while, but if we know they're close, we'll go ahead and start moving those virtual alleyways a little bit closer and closer and tighter together. Great thing is they're not stressing. She's not stressing. I'm not worried that she's going to be out there at 2 a.m. trying to get a cow in to be inside the shed. It's not snowing. It's not nasty. She can do it all by herself if I'm not there. So that's been a huge thing for us. Plus, it's just really nice. I mean, it's great to actually have a little reprieve from the weather. So if you've got these kind of stationed, wherever, it's nice to just step into them. Surprisingly, you could build one of these for cheaper than what you buy them. But I would say well worth the investment. It's just a nice little thing to have. And that's just cool too. We've integrated all of our cameras into these as well. So if we do have one that's in there and she's not quite ready, we can go back to the house, check our cams, perfectly fine. So any questions? I know we've gone through a lot. Any questions on anything yet?
What's all this cost?
I can walk you through it. But like I said, loafing shed here, about $3,500.
How about the cameras?
The cameras, you can actually buy them now in packs of like a dozen for like $20.
Yeah, but then you got the cost of connecting them.
Yeah, $2 for the SIM and whatever cellular network you're going to be on. So usually you can get a deal on that. That's not too bad. I'm paying probably less than $120 a month for it.
For all your cameras?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not bad.
How many cameras do you have out?
42. And that's all my pasture cams, all my barn cams, all my loafing cams, and that's not including mom and dad's. So usually when you get into that, you can bundle yourself a deal on that. So
on your folks herd 2,000, right?
yeah, 2,000.
When you're looking at a herd that large, and I know what's the largest group you've had moving together?
Probably 600.
Now it's 600. Do you need to collar every one of them?
No, and good point. Talking about the generational things,
Yeah.
right? Usually we all know that there's an alpha within a group, right? Usually that's the one we want to go after, right? You can call it a Judas with sheep, and I'm doing that on our sheep herd too right now, to where my lead sheep is basically training everyone else. But you're exactly right. You don't have to collar every single one. They will eventually start to know it. It takes a little time. My suggestion to start is if you've already got your fencing setups in place, your poly, start training them on that first. Usually it takes about a week and a half, 2 weeks is usually where it's at. And then you can pull it up from there. Yeah.
There was variation in breeds and their flocking instinct. So flocking instinct is super useful
Yep.
for what you're talking about, but some breeds like Suffolks, they spread out. Cattle, there's probably some variation too.
Yeah. So yeah, and gregarious natures in sheep. That's
But
where
they just want to be together.
they want to be
Cattle-
together.
Cattle, not so much. Do they really follow the cow
Oh,
that much?
Yeah, you'll notice it. I mean, especially as you're in a system too, especially if they're going from water to mineral, you start to notice those patterns. And we'll actually talk a little bit about that here in a little bit too. But you start to notice those patterns, and they get into a routine themselves. But like I said, it doesn't take but a couple weeks to get them all squared up.
But even if they don't all have collars.
Yeah. So they know.
Percentage of them do need a collar.
Out of like 600, probably 75 is where we're working.
75 animals
Yeah.
have a collar.
So
Just to ask a question about loafing sheds. Are you saying you're warming those loafing sheds with this pipe
Yeah.
system?
it's thermal heat.
So are cows coming in there a calf on their
Yes.
own?
So basically, it's a 6-inch tile pipe is what is like that black tile pipe. We'll bundle them at about a dozen, and then we'll 8 feet down, usually about 150 feet long is what we do there, and it will generate enough heat that we can keep those sheds nice and toasty. If it's super windy,
But it attracts the calving cows.
no, we'll just bring them in
Oh,
like
you're
we know.
finding them in there.
Yeah, we'll bring them in when we know.
I see.
So you're using cellular network for the cameras?
Mhm. Yep.
Okay, so that won't work. We don't
Uh,
have cellular coverage all the time.
All the time.
Well,
Gotcha.
T-Mobile will be
T-Mobile's
there.
trying. They're trying to get
They're
a
trying,
satellite, but
right.
it's still not.
Yeah.
We're west of Dodge City.
Oh,
We're
gotcha.
Northwest.
Northwest,
Leota,
Leota.
we're
Leota,
Leota.
okay, gotcha.
So,
Yeah, you guys are, that's.
So I take it you're calving in February?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, so,
we have a-
yeah, so,
But I think it's important to note, there are different ways than cellular networks. to
oh,
put up towers.
absolutely,
You can put up towers or even mobile towers.
Yeah, very much so.
So you have your local network you're running off
Yeah.
of that you create.
And like I said, it's one of those deals too, game cams honestly do a pretty good job, like if you're willing to, go and check, right? You're not gonna get maybe the instant feedback that you're wanting, it's delayed, right? But if you're willing to go and pull a sim, every couple of days, that's what we're. So, yeah, you guys are enough.
We're lazy. We sit in the middle of our pasture anyway.
Well, and see, and that's a good point too. Don't think, and I don't want this impression that, this gives you superhuman powers and, you're gonna be a bad stock. But I think from our standpoint is this actually increases our stockmanship, right? And I'm not saying don't go walk your cows, you should definitely do that. Absolutely, any chance you get, be with them. I'm kind of that way, it's a nice evening, I tend to just go out and drive and talk. And I swear to God, I can watch them grow, but yeah, my wife says I'm wasting my time. So
Do it in such a fashion that you can still work a full-time job, still get that PhD. You
absolutely,
can still do your kids' activity.
Yeah.
And if this agricultural passion
Yes.
isn't supported by these other industries, then
it was unfortunate. We lost a family member and had a funeral yesterday, and that was probably a lot of the conversation last night was, man, we should spend enough time together. We didn't spend enough time. And it was because we were doing this, we were 4-H, and we were doing those things, right? And the reality is now we can free up a little bit of time, and we can go and enjoy a basketball game. We can go see the football game, right? And that's what's given me peace of mind. Is there for a while I was so hesitant about leaving the operation and taking time off for myself, right? And once we started implementing this, it was like, this is manageable, this is doable. It takes a little while to get used to, but once you do, your efficiencies actually are pretty phenomenal. So, like I said, I always go back to that being so stressed out about calving that I felt like I had to be there all the time and wasn't sleeping for 14, 15, 16 hours. And now it's like I can't. And so that's been really, really nice. It's really just that safety, that assurance that, hey, things are okay. Nature's nature, right?
What company do you have your collars with?
So I'm kind of running a couple different ones now. You Heard, which is that Australian-based one, and I can't recommend anything because I'm working for the RAPS program, but I could share with you a few afterwards if that's all right.
Okay.
But yeah, there's a kind of a neat one out of Australia that is specifically for sheep that I found to be really, really great on cattle. So I've enjoyed that. I'm trying out a couple different ones. I think it's just going to continue to get better, just like with your iPhone, with computers. It's always going to increasing to get better, right? So I think the big thing is experiment and find out what works for you, right?
Are those loading sheds that you're warming to thermal 5% out of skids?
Yeah. So I don't know if you can see, can't really see it, but it's actually built up on the backside, kind of lift like this. So you can just go in and actually take the skid steer, pick it up, and then just move around.
It just pops back up.
Yeah, just pops right back on. And that's all I've done is I'll go and just permanently set those pipes in spots. So I got spots where I can move them to. So that's one thing I've been doing here quite a bit of. And that's dirt cheap. That is dirt cheap to do. I don't know, Herschel, what's price on 6-inch pipe, that tile pipe? It's not much.
I don't know. What?
Okay.
$4, $5?
Maybe something like that. It's not a whole hell of a lot. So
Times 12?
yeah. Have you guys ever seen that grower out of Nebraska who has the in-ground greenhouses? This citrus in a cell. That's where I got the idea. And that it actually works out pretty well. So
How deep are those?
probably 8 foot down and about 150, 200 feet long.
8 foot depth.
Yeah, 8 foot down.
So the trick with those is you have
Do that everywhere again.
Yeah, right.
you have to get down to your frost line.
Yeah, way below. Yeah. But like I said, it's kind of crazy because you'll go over to it, especially on a super cold night where the wind's not blowing at all, and you'll feel the heat actually coming out of the pipe. So, and there's no electricity at all to that. So that's just a neat little deal. But like I'd say, whatever the name of that video is, we should share that with people because that is a neat little video.
You just use a mini excavator with a small bucket to go 8 foot.
If you can. So, yeah.
It'd take more than a mini, wouldn't it?
If
How
you
big a
can.
bundle?
Yeah,
What's a bundle look like?
Probably about yay big.
2 foot?
Yeah, probably about arm, about like that. So
Big one.
yeah. So, but yeah, we'll find that video too. That's actually a neat little video to take a look at, and it's a cool idea. And I think they only do maybe 4 or 5 pipes, if I'm right. And of course, it's an enclosed system, but it works out pretty slick. Let's see where we at here. Just talking about a little bit here on sensors. One thing we've started to do here is actually putting sensors in all of our tanks. One of the issues I was having was either tanks were full and I was worried that they were running either over or empty, floats busted, something like that. And so I was just stressing out about that all the time. And so decided to throw sensors on that. I hated it when I went out to a pasture and thought I was good and tank was empty, right? Like that's the worst feeling in the world. And so started throwing in sensors into this as well. So on my depth, the big thing is I get a notification that, hey, like water has not reached said sensor, or we know that there's too much water over that sensor. So I know if I've got like a broken float, if I've got an issue like that. So those little sensors are pretty cool. Herschel's got the neat little pumps that, gosh, they come out of, I don't know, you get them from Amazon for like $15.
Those are air pumps?
Yeah, those little air pumps. A lot of that stuff actually works really, really well. You can go on Amazon and buy them super cheap. But that's one thing we've done is we just started installing a lot of that into all of our tanks. So I know that, hey, I don't have overflow. I'm not under where I need to be. That's been super, super, super helpful. One thing I've done here recently, and I'm really kind of excited about, is my NDVI. So We do corn and soybeans as well. And that's one of my scouting tools for corn and soybeans is I'll go out and use NDVI to make sure, hey, do I have any good spots, bad spots? What do I need to be taking a look at? So I said, hey, what if I could apply that to my pastures, my cover crops, my interseeded pastures, and actually see if I can get good NDVI information on that. So I started to do that and started tracking it over a year and started to realize that, hey, in my paddocks where I'm grazing with my virtual fencing, this is probably overgrazed, right? So I know I need to let that rest. I don't need to be grazing on it. I need to be moving cattle, right? So that's one big thing I've been doing here is kind of tracking and using NDVI on knowing, hey, when to rotate, when to move cattle, so on and so forth. Not just guessing, going out there and guessing. That's always good, but I'm always looking to optimize, right? And so I just took what imagery I was getting from my FMIS software for planting corn and soybeans, and I was just running it over the top with my pasture. And then I could actually do the same thing and realize that, hey, we need to give this a break. We need to move, so on and so forth. So that's kind of cool too. This is getting to be pretty common. I mean, a lot of apps out there right now to where you can get that, I think, relatively cheap or for free. Most of the time, you're going to get an image about every 5 days is what you're probably going to get here. The interesting thing with that is most of those softwares, most of those apps will actually trim out any cloud cover. So if there's a heavy cloud cover day, you're probably not getting the best image. So it's going to give you the best image possible, right? So that's just a neat little thing to just maybe start taking a look at. I don't know. Like I said, it's one of those deals I found it extremely useful, especially when I know I need to move cattle, right? And like I said, there's nothing better than a trained eye, but if you're behind, things are going hard, you guys are going after wheat, maybe possibly at that time, it's nice to have. So
How often would you do an NDVI?
So it's about every 5 days you get a new image is what you get. So about every 5 days. And then a lot of that you can actually average. So as you start to build your data layers through time, so after every single year, you tend to start to notice some trends. So if we know that, hey, we're in more of a droughtier type year, you go ahead, Chris.
Just clarification, this is Google Earth Engine that you're pulling from?
No. So this is Sentinel satellite data.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's Sentinel. Yeah. So, but that's what's cool about it is if we're in a drought year type year and we know those periods over time, and we'll get into a conversation with AI here in a bit. But if we start to recognize those trends over time, we know how our pastures or cover crops are performing, right? So you get to see that. So you start to anticipate what's coming, what's out there, right? So like I said, that's really interesting to me. I've kind of geeked out on it here lately, probably more than I should, but it's fun. Big thing is, you guys have heard a lot. You've heard a lot of technology. What do you do with it all, right? We've got collection of data, I think is probably the biggest thing, right? The big thing for me is data integration across all our systems. So if you looked at it, we started with Starlink, right? So we now have Wi-Fi operations to the farm. That feeds our herd management software, right? So it tracks everything with our ear tags, everything like that's being fed automatically into our herd management software. From there, we're going into like our NDVI, our cameras, our imagery, all that gets collected into our herd management software. And so it's really, really nice starting to build a data bank over time. What's cool is, I don't know if anyone's ever seen these, but with those ID tags, we've got a set of scales, not quite similar to this, but every time they go to get mineral, those cows will actually walk up and hit this scale, right? When they hit this scale, I'm tracking average daily gain. I'm tracking health. It clicks into that ID tag. I'm tracking health. I know if something's not gaining weight. I know if temperatures are elevated. I know to be proactive instead of reactive. And that's been awesome for us. So I tend to know what my trouble issues are going to be within my herd, especially if I got a few individuals that maybe we need to get rid of, just because it seems like they're just always chronic, always an issue. That's a pain, right? So the nice thing is we're actually collecting all this data into one now, right? And from there, I can actually start to build out my history of my herd. And I know what my issues are. I know if I've got calving issues. I know if grazing. This is what's cool too. You start to notice patterns when you start to collect your data. You start to notice your patterns of, do I got a few cows that are grazing one spot? Are they hanging out in the corner of the field where the shade's at, or over by the water tank? If that's the case, I go and I move my virtual boundaries. I force them out of that. So it's just continually keeping them moving. They're not in the corner. They're not eaten up by flies. It's just kind of a weird thing. But as that system starts to tie together, you start to become more proactive and you start to recognize patterns. So that's really, really cool. I've enjoyed it. I geek out on that stuff. So Chris hired me a long time ago, and we probably geek out on some data. So kind of getting to wrap up things here. As far as implementation on this, like I said, I know it's a lot, and I know you guys have seen a lot of technology here. For our operation, it's what it took for us to run our lives, right? And to continue to do what we want to do, get a PhD, see family, be with family, be across the state, consult, do those things, right? My suggestion is start to identify one pain point, right? Start to identify that one pain point and maybe think about adopting a piece of technology that helps that. If you've got calving issues, maybe start looking at some tail monitors, right? Start to bring that into the operation. And then just slowly build from there and scale. The one thing I would say is look at integration, right? So make sure that your systems can talk to each other and that you can share data. Most of these systems you'll start to recognize are built on open APIs, which means you can pull and push whatever data that you want, right? So just be kind of mindful of that. That goes into the choosing the tech that easily does that. One thing I would say too is train everyone that's in the operation on how to use said piece of technology, right? Does it make sense for one person to know how to do it? Because if they're gone and something goes down, you've got issues, right? I don't care if it's mom, dad, grandpa, grandma, they can figure it out. I promise you, I know it seems daunting. They can figure it out. Dad fought me. I'll be truthfully honest with you. He fought me hard. Got him a smartphone here 3 years ago, and that dude is like a teenage girl. So he's got it figured out. So he has got it figured out, and he loves it. It's great. Like he can now turn on his pivots from his cell phone, right? Like how great is that? He doesn't have to go out and do that at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I want Dad to be running until he's 85 and continue to do what he likes to do, right? So, and this is going to enable him to do that. So yeah, like I said, he was even sharing me videos and stuff of some of this stuff last time. So more than happy to share that with you. And then, like I said, keep it simple, keep it scalable. You don't have to do everything at once. Maybe get a few cameras to start off in your open sheds and your barns. Do those things to start, right? It doesn't have to be the whole operation. Let's see. I think that's about everything on that. Oh, just get into a little bit of future state. Go ahead. Any questions? Okay. Talking about future state. One thing I'm trying out here this year is actually some herd tracking with drones, and not from the standpoint of actually like being over the herd, but our place in New Mexico, it's just hard to get around, and there's elk out there and they'll bust fence, everything like that. So it's actually really, really nice because I can GPS my fence lines and actually run my drone to go and check my fences for me and make sure that, hey, everything's in place, everything's good before we go and turn cows out, right? So just like little things like that have been exciting, been fun. I actually got approached here about a year ago on autonomous feeders on the ATV. So it's a controller that you can put on the back of a four-wheeler or the side by side. You can basically geofence your four-wheeler or your side by side with the cake box in the back, and actually go and cake for you. And I was like, I don't think I want to do that. I'm trying it. So the great thing is, remember, the whole point is I can be in 6, 7 different places at one time now. And if I can get my system automated, the great thing is it's hard to find help right now, right? And it's hard to get people to stay in operations. My nephews right now, if I need them to go and do something, I'm going to be honest with you, it's tough. So it's great because I'm sitting there thinking about it. Gosh, while I'm out checking calves, I could be feeding too, doing all this at the same time, right? So like I said, it seems a little far-fetched, but I am trialing it right now, and I'm not unimpressed. So, talking about AI.
You feel secure with caking cattle and not getting an eye on them?
Do you want now?
Caking livestock and not getting an eye on them?
Oh, and like I said, don't ever think that I'm not. I mean, I am.
I mean,
think about it.
That's
my cameras. I have more eyes on now than I did when I had 2 eyes.
where the tape reader is?
Yeah, I mean, it runs. It's great. I can actually see live feed of it. I've got my cameras out in my pasture and my paddock, so I'm seeing it from there. I've got more eyes on now than I ever did before. We'll put it that way. So, and I'm that type of guy where I don't have social media, so I will live feed my cows. Oh, that's what I scroll. When I'm scrolling, that's what I'm doing. So,
New game.
yeah.
Stock your cow.
Yeah, and it's crazy. I do stock my cows, so in a healthy way.
How is it for girlfriend?
My wife says I'm more obsessed with my cows now than I was before. So,
Stock your
well,
cows on.
so here's the big thing. I used to manage and run the sheep unit there at K-State when I was going to college, and did that through 4-H. I hated sheep. I hated goats, and I don't know. Now I've got 300 of them. So weirdly enough, that's my issue. Are my sheep and goats. And I think most people probably agree with that. Great thing is I can keep an eye on them. And I know if someone's going to do something stupid. So usually it's the locust tree that's in the corner of a field that they tend to crawl up in. And when one goes, they all go. I tend to identify that pretty quick. So talking about AI. Who's used chat? GPT. Okay. How are you guys using it? Like it? What do you think about it?
I don't use it a lot.
Use it a lot?
Proofreading.
Proofreading?
A little bit.
Okay. That's cool. What about pulling data out of data silos? Anything there? Nothing there. So one thing I've started to do, and never thought I'd start doing this either, but we talked about my farm management software, my cattle management software, right? And all this data, we're compiling it, we're putting it all into one place, right? So at the same time, that's a lot of data to go through. It's a lot of information to sift through, right? So started working, trying to learn it on my own, trying to figure it out, doing some coding, talking about pulling APIs, right? I can start to pull specific information out of my herd management software, right? What's really, really cool about that is I can sit there and go, hey, what cows have elevated temperatures X amount of times throughout this year? Right? And I can get that 2151, 2173, 4189. And so I can start to identify, hey, where I have these issues, right? Then I go back and I actually take a look at it from anything that I've done vaccine wise, or what are the issues? Why is that happening? I can pull average daily gains when they cross that scale. Who's gaining, who's not gaining. Then I can start to build out my genetics, right? I can sit there and I go, hey, maybe this genetics here, not the best on cover crops. Maybe we need to go somewhere else, right? So you can start building these correlations. And that's what's really, really cool about this is you've taken all this technology, all these systems, and then you go, what the hell do I do with it? Well, it depends on what you want to do with it, is ultimately the big thing. Build a roadmap for yourself. Build a roadmap for what you want your operation to look like. focus on, a few items that you have issues with and start to pull that data, right? Because it's all siloed, it's all in different places. Now you can actually start correlating and doing something with it. And that's what's really, really cool. And like I said, I know it's really futuristic and far-fetched in some senses, but it's not. I mean, Chris, you probably sifted through, I don't know how much data in your lifetime, but imagine if you would have had this 10 years ago, right? So that's what's, go ahead.
Is there good data on like the cost comparisons between this system versus sort of typical fencing and labor?
Yeah. Yeah, and I've actually got a little printout on that. I see if I can find that for you, shoot that over. But like pretty comparable. I've got a couple producers up in the Tuttle right now that are running, actually, they've kind of fully adopted and running most of these fences now. We took a gamble here this year. I've got a young fella. He's rented some ground from dad, doesn't own the 80 beside him, and it's not fenced off. He's like, I'm going to take a gamble, just planting soybeans. And he goes, I'm going to virtual fence this. And he goes, already told the neighbor, if I get in there, I'm going to pay for the damages on it, but we're going to try it. It's crazy, but those cows will literally stay right to that line and won't cross over soybeans. You have to go put up a fence. And it's funny, he works a full-time job too. And it's pretty slick. So,
Do we want to switch over and?
yeah, maybe if we can, that'd be great. I guess while we're trying to switch over there, this is fine here. I guess while we're trying to switch over here, any questions? Like I said, I know it's a lot. But
Yes, you've got a technical question, like how to integrate two different systems. Where are you going to get advice on this?
so the big thing is whatever system you decide to go and actually start with. I failed a couple of times. I just tell people, look, I got a problem, give me a call. You can find myself on the RAPS website. Give me a call, more than happy to help out, get these things kind of started. I've failed multiple times, so I kind of know what's working well with each other and what's not. The big thing there is like if you are working with a rep for any of these solutions, straight up ask them, does your system integrate with said system? And if they don't know, I would highly advise just probably stepping away from the brain.
So you gotta log in for it to make
Yeah,
it.
let's see if it'll work. If not, we can try to call. Yeah. Now I'll turn on the Wi-Fi too. I think so.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Enough tabs open.
Dude, let me just let me tell you, it's been a week. Oh,
It's just,
my wife's in the middle of doing that right now, and that's not.
it's closed 40
Yeah.
times.
So just kind of going back to the whoopsie that my dad had, that was the issue. Here's the picture that I wanted to show you guys, and I'll show you some videos here in a second. So you kind of can't see it. I don't know. There's a corner post here, and then this is basically fenced back this way. But everything to the right is completely unfenced, right? And in the video, you'll see it. My dad's on horseback here, right there, and he's moving that entire herd by himself. Well, I guess my niece is with him in this one, but moving it completely by himself, which is cool. It's what he wants to continue to do. It's fantastic. It's fun. Let's see if we can play this video. But check this out. Completely moving him by himself. You'll see my niece over here in the corner here in a second. There she is. There's the fence on that one side. But remember, we moved that virtual fence in until it came to basically that alleyway. So it was time to move him off that 1,200 acres. We moved him into this giant alleyway, and no problems, no issues. Two people on that whole operation. Let's go to the next one here. Maybe. Let's see here. Come on, move forward. There we go. Here's the next one. This one's cool. You can really see it here. So these cows are getting moved 1.5 miles from the paddock that they were in. And the only thing that is there you'll see it on the left-hand side, there's a fence there, but Dad was always having an issue because on the right-hand side, those cows would always go into the ditch, and there's a big culvert there, and it opens up into a creek bottom. Issues. And so I was like, I got an idea. Why don't we virtual fence the road to where they won't go off onto the right-hand side? And you'll see it here in a second. But as you look over here to the right-hand side, right there. I don't know if you can see, but it's just, there's nothing over here. It's just big culvert, big ditch, everything like that. But look how straight that line is, right? We've literally moved them the entire road. We fenced up the entire road, and they stayed within this funnel the entire time. They weren't going off into the ditch. They weren't going off in another pasture. They weren't doing any of that. They stayed right in that center of that road. So like I said, pretty cool to actually see it in action. We can talk about it all day long, but until you actually see it. Yeah. And I don't know if you noticed that, but really I think there was only 7 or 8 Dad said that actually had collars on. The rest of them didn't have collars. So they just followed the ones that had collars and stayed straight there. A little bit of trust, but as you continue to do it, it gets built, right? So I think that was it for me. Any questions? Anything like that? Yeah, go ahead.
I have sheep, so
Okay.
I'm very interested in, and in the summer I run goats on the go, so I lease a couple of herds of goats. I would be willing to train them to the collars and then put them throughout the metro.
So I work with build busing a lot up there in Marshall County.
Okay.
And it's something we're going to start trialing too a little bit. We've actually had pretty good success with a 5-wire poly that actually works pretty decent. But we're working to do it to where Bill can pull up, drop them, go, and not have any issues. We're gonna try doing that here this year with him. Like I said, I've been doing it on my place. What you tend to notice with sheep and goats is they're pretty gregarious. They tend to want to stick together anyways. So they tend to stick around your cows and stuff too as well. So I've just really not had them by themselves yet. But definitely we'll probably do that here this year. So
I will always, because I'm in an urban environment, I will always have them within electric net.
Yeah.
But I want to be able to divide the paddock so that way they concentrate.
So
it's the landscape clearing.
it's funny, when I first tried this, my house sits on probably a little 5-acre patch there, and I had 2 cows that were getting ready to calve, and brought them up to the house, and I was busy with work. I was just wanted to keep an eye on them, and so I geofenced it and put the collars on them and just let them out in the front yard, and I didn't have any issues. And so it's kind of funny because it's like there's a little training that gets used to it, but it was funny because I was getting neighbors calling me going, "Hey, your cows are out." And I go, "Oh, no, they're not." So, you know,
Sure.
but
So are you rotating your cattle daily?
yeah, and that's what's great about this. You're not having to move that polywire fence and do that and keep the mobile water going with them. You can sit there and geofence it and move them daily that way.
Yeah,
So-
when you said that you were moving them off 1,200 acres, it sounds like you had left them on there.
Yeah, so we'll kind of just spoke wheel it is what we do through that, and then we'll just spoke wheel it, and then as we get towards the end of it, we'll build that alleyway and then go on. So, yeah, but
Have you been able to, and I don't know if you've had to, but I know there's been some thought about it. So say you have some patches of old world blue stem or something else you want to get rid of. Have you been able to effectively, anybody been able to effectively corral them in a small paddock just to hammer the thing you're going to spray out later?
yeah, so
They wouldn't normally be eating. Will they go after it after a while?
going back to the goats and the
Yeah.
locust conversation,
Right.
that's one thing I've done with like my locust trees is I'll sit there and corral them into a specific area where I got them and they'll go to town on it, right? That's a good one. We probably ought to bring up to Leslie.
Yeah.
Up there in Marshall. So that'd be a good idea. But I would think it would work myself. Because like I said, I'm doing it right now on like the locust trees and it's working out pretty well.
Are you talking about the cows?
With
Cows, yeah, I mean, yeah, I know goats are far less picky,
Yeah.
but
I was just curious, because, you know, we've starved the cows to make them eat Canadian thistle,
yeah.
you know, to teach them, hey,
Yeah.
when we put you here, you're gonna eat everything.
Oh, yeah.
And then, you know, after starving them to death for about 3 paddocks, then it's just, they naturally crave
naturally crave
everything, and then you're good to go.
I mean, it's just kind of like the first time they get on turnips and radishes.
Yeah.
They'll sit there and just go, what is this? As soon as it gets that
And-
frost,
Right.
they hit it. And then the next
Then
year,
they paw it out.
they paw it out.
Paw it out the ground, it's like, hey,
Yeah,
I know what
exactly.
this is.
Yeah, exactly. And so, and that's what's cool about it is the big thing is I know this is technology, but the reality is this technology is to let nature do nature. Right? My whole goal is to actually interfere as little as possible, let them be comfortable and know me. The reality is they've been surviving for a long time on their own. You know, so
So has anybody tried using it as a herding tool? Like put the virtual fence around your UTV and move them?
you know, I haven't done that yet from the standpoint of like actually trying to do that yet. I think it would probably at the time probably create some confusion, right? Because they're kind of used to that boundary moving on them, day after day, and all of a sudden, if you did that, that might be a little bit of confusion. But like I said, it's worked out really, really well, and I think it's probably one thing they don't talk about a lot is when you're moving cattle, this is such a great tool to move cattle and move cattle safely, right? I think a lot of people just use it to go and graze and they keep them in their little paddock. But the reality is you can actually move a fair amount of cattle safely by yourself, not have issues. They get used to it and trained over time. So, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful.
So we probably ran over dinner.
Wow.
So we
I
did.
think we're
Sorry.
right about there. Yeah, no problem. Thank you. That was great. Very exciting.